Hello. What we're going to talk about here is how you can keep your business and personal finances separate. And you probably already know that today, in terms of business, small business, or even solo businesses, people starting businesses on their own, today is really the day of the bootstrapper. People who sell products, they don't have to have office space anymore. They don't have to have employees. They don't have to have equipment. So business is really changing. You probably read, or you may have even heard of, there's even a book by Chris Gilbo called The $100 Startup, and that really is a viable concept. People don't have to have a lot of money to start up a business, and as a result of that, you've got people who are creating services. So you don't have to have, this big office space or a mall space or anything like that. People are providing even creative services. They're doing things like doing websites for people. They're writing articles. They're ghostwriting books. All kinds of things that really do not require lots of traditional capital. They're creating virtual assets for people. So in other words, people want to do things. They want to have websites. They want to have information marketing courses. They want to have all kinds of things. And you have people who are providing services for these things. And again, they just don't need to have lots of stuff that they got to go and buy. You have information businesses these days. I mean, this was not even a thing, I'd say 10 to 15 years ago. They're creating creative products. They are creating informational products. They're creating software that you can use in the cloud. So there are all kinds of things that people are starting businesses to do that are viable businesses that just do not start the way we traditionally know them to start. And that means then that the stuff that you need in order to start those businesses is no longer expensive, nor is it traditional. So you probably have to have a personal computer, maybe a mobile device. In some cases, you're going to have some office furniture, maybe some desktop software. You need an internet connection, obviously. You might buy some software as a service. You might buy some content services. You might buy some employee labor, but these days that doesn't necessarily cost you a whole lot. It's not as if you have to go out and hire someone and pay a lot of money for it. And so as a result of that, all of this is on demand. So it does not cost you a lot. You can buy exactly what you need, and you don't have to pay for the service up front. Right? And this is becoming more and more of a way for people to actually start their business. They only buy what they need, and they buy it when they need it. And so because of that, you just don't need as much. And so the things that people are using to start businesses, the capital, the money, well, those things are no longer traditional. People are just putting their knowledge into things. And for a lot of businesses today, having knowledge is more than enough, more than sufficient in order to start a viable business. Obviously, people are using cash, and they're getting that cash from their savings. They're not going out to investors, right? They're not going out necessarily to the bank. They're not going out to get people who have lots of money and asking them for it. In some cases, they're testing their product even before they actually invest in the business themselves. People are getting cash from their employment. So in some cases, they're full-time employed, but they're starting a business on the side. Because these businesses are no longer traditional, they're just taking the money that they earned from their day job, and they're putting it into their business. Some people are older, and so because of that, they've retired. They're getting the money from their retirement, and they're putting it into their business. And debt is not a necessity anymore. So you don't have to go and get a small business loan in order to start a running viable business. So people are using their credit cards. They don't have to have a lot of money. Sometimes they may need $500 here, maybe $700 or $200, or they just don't need a lot of money. They're going to get their home equity loan in some cases. And again, we're not even talking about a lot of money, not thousands of dollars in many cases. Sometimes we're talking about in the hundreds. Sometimes we're talking about less than 100. And so people do not need to go and get commercial loans. The traditional go to the bank, get approved, and then get a commercial loan. That just is no longer a necessity. So what does that mean, right? What does that mean? Well, there isn't any real separation anymore for people who are bootstrapping their business between their personal and their business life. So in this case, when we talk about this, I want to make sure that I kind of define terms. When I use the term cash going forward, I mean money spent. So I'm not just talking about dollar bills. So your PayPal account, I would consider to be cash going forward. I would consider debit cards and credit cards to be cash, and what I'm going to be talking about just in these next few minutes. So in other words, the cash into the business comes now from personal sources. So you don't have to have, again, we don't have to have investors. The cash that we make, right, typically that goes into accounts that's going to be used for business and personal. Typically, you'd have to, if you made your money at a particular place, that have to go into a business account. Now, because people are getting their money from different sources, sometimes that money goes into a personal account. Sometimes it goes into a business account. As a result of that, the cash out, right, goes to some business services, right, some business sources. And again, some of the cash out then goes to personal sources. So what happens as a result of this, right, because of all of this activity? Well, sometimes if you're running a business in this way, you can be surprised by a recurring payment. You don't necessarily know which account it's coming out of, and sometimes a recurring payment can happen, and you may or may not be watching that because it's not necessarily your business account. Sometimes we may not account for everything we've spent between tax time. So people are very attentive to the things they spend around tax time. They tend not to be very attentive when it's not tax time. So people will go and buy books, they'll go and buy things with cash in their pocket, and at times this means then that some of these things never get accounted for. And that can happen a lot of different times during the course of a month. If you add those things up over the course of the year, it could mean thousands of dollars sometimes of tax savings you could have if you were accounting for it on a regular basis or if you had a system. And sometimes we're just not aware of whether or not we're doing better than we were in a previous period. So maybe this month we've made $5,000, maybe last month we've made $5,000, but we don't necessarily fully know whether or not that's $5,000 all profit or $5,000 is less. Because we're not necessarily tracking these things in one place, we don't always know whether or not we're really doing something and we're really getting ahead. And of course, we just mentioned this, but we're really scrambling at tax time. That's the result of all this. And we really don't have effective systems for keeping receipts. And this is evidence because there are businesses that are built around this. There's a business called Shoeboxed, and this is for people to send in their receipts, and Shoebox will store their receipts. And there are all kinds of businesses that are like this because there really is no foolproof way of being able to keep and track receipts and get them ready for tax time or even to track them for the business. And obviously there's a better way, right? So there's a better way. And there's a personal financial software program called Quicken. And it's really made to track activity between accounts. And there is a business version of this software, and it's made to track your business activity. Now, transactions can all be downloaded into your software regardless of where they come from, right? So you can have transactions in your personal checking account, those can be downloaded. You can have transactions in your business checking account, those can be downloaded. You can have transactions from your PayPal account. You can have transactions from your Charge account. You can have transactions from every place downloaded into the software. And these same transactions can even be memorized, so we can categorize them. So every time they come over, we can have them automatically placed into certain categories. And these transactions can also be summarized into reports. And this is what's really vital, and what will really be helpful to us, because they will tell us exactly our position. They'll tell us exactly how our business and financial position is actually going. And these transactions can come from multiple sources. And this is what's really important, because we're bringing all of these multiple sources into one location. And we are actually putting things together so that we can have one cohesive report telling us what's happening in our business. But now there is a caveat to that. Quicken doesn't necessarily come with a manual. Quicken doesn't necessarily assume that we're using personal funds for our business. It sort of assumes that we're using personal for personal and business for business. It doesn't assume that we use business funds to pay for personal expenses. The program doesn't make those assumptions. The program doesn't make the assumption that we spend cash for the purchases in our business, if it's personal cash. All of that means that even if you can account for all these things, you need to make sure you're setting up Quicken correctly from the start, so that when you have it set up, it will actually give you the information that you want. And the good thing is that there's help for you. There is an entire video course showing you the basics of creating your own personal financial statements with Quicken. It'll show you how to separate your business and personal expenses. It'll show you how to track your receipts using your mobile device. It'll show you how to account for your PayPal transactions, which is how many business owners are getting started. It'll give you help if you have more than one checking account, your savings account, or PayPal account. Now, if you're interested in finding out more about a course that will show you how to use Quicken in this way for your business, all you've got to do is click the button right below here to find out more. We'll tell you about the course, how you can get it, and what it will do for you and your business. And with that, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to be with us and listen. Have a great day and a pleasant tomorrow. Take care.